Donald Trump is working hard to control the conversation. It's not just political allies like Pam Bondi tasked with silencing dissent. He's also leaning on his billionaire friends to suppress any opposition. We've already seen this play out, with Bob Iger stepping in and Jimmy Kimmel's show suddenly being taken off the air. But it doesn't end with mainstream media. Behind the scenes, there are reports of new secret deals being made between Trump and wealthy allies designed to keep people from even mentioning the Epstein scandal online. We're going to break all of that down in detail. But before we do, if you could leave a like on this video, and if you enjoy our channel and haven't yet subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Now, let's start with the glaring failure of corporate media to fully call out the Epstein story. Something Lawrence O'Donnell recently explained in a way that makes the whole situation even clearer.
The White House reporters in the room who were allowed to ask questions. 33 questions were allowed from the White House press corps in that room, and exactly 4 of them were about the Epstein situation. Actually, 2 questions, each with a follow-up, which is really 2 questions about the Trump situation, because there is no Epstein situation. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. And as long as Donald Trump is alive, Donald Trump should face questions and suspicions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And the White House press corps should unite in its pursuit of answers to those questions. But the current White House press corps has no idea how to do that. The current White House press corps is mostly lost. And so each time Donald Trump was asked about Jeffrey Epstein today, the next reporter asking a question immediately changed the subject, which is exactly what Donald Trump wanted that reporter to do, exactly what Donald Trump is counting on from those reporters. We have never had a more reliably weak White House press corps when presenting questions to a president of the United States. Catherine Lucy of Bloomberg asked a good question about Jeffrey Epstein with a quick follow-up, and Nancy Cortez of CBS asked a question about Ghislaine Maxwell, a good question, meeting with Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer with a quick follow-up, and not another reporter in the room asked a question about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine Maxwell being switched to a low security prison, which she was not qualified to be transferred to, and which is now involving extra expense for taxpayers because the security at that prison had to be enhanced simply because that one sex criminal has arrived at that prison. The only sex criminal ever to be assigned to that low security prison. Robert Hood, a former Bureau of Prisons chief of internal affairs, told NBC News in an email that, quote, Maxwell's transfer to the camp in Bryan is a travesty of justice. To relocate a sex offender serving 20 years to a country club setting is offensive to victims and others serving similar crimes, wrote Hood. 28 questions.
The reason independent outlets like Midas Touch, Brian Tyler Cohen, Breaking Points, and shows like this one are so essential is because corporate and establishment media have repeatedly failed to hold Donald Trump accountable, especially when it comes to his connections and attempts to obscure his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. That's why platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Substack, and TikTok matter so much, with TikTok now being the #1 place where people get their news. But there's growing discussion about TikTok, and the behind-the-scenes deal that's about to unfold shows just how far Trump and his allies are willing to go to silence opposition, particularly when it involves the Epstein story. And that brings us to the comments made by Carolyn Leavitt right here.
Let's deal does put America's first, and let me just be very clear. This deal means that TikTok will be majority owned by Americans in the United States. There will be 7 seats on the board that controls the app in the United States, and 6 of those seats will be Americans. And the data and privacy will be led by one of America's greatest tech companies, Oracle, and the algorithm will also be controlled by America as well. So all of those details have already been agreed upon. Now we just need this deal to be signed, and that will be happening, I anticipate, in the coming days.
Making some news there. So 6 of the 7 seats will be American held. Sounds like a deal that puts American interests first. Caroline.
We've heard Carolyn Leavitt frame Larry Ellison and Oracle as key players in the effort to take control of TikTok, pitching it as something patriotic, that Americans who love this country should be the ones in charge. But the real question is, who else is on that list? Who else will sit on the board overseeing one of the most powerful algorithms in the world? The answer might surprise you, and it also provides an important clue into how Trump is working to shield himself when it comes to the Epstein story.
Trump now says the tech billionaires Larry Ellison and Michael Dell, plus the Murdochs, Lachlan and Rupert Murdoch, could be part of the TikTok deal. CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter is with us now. What exactly do we know about the deal and, most importantly, the algorithm?
Let's start at the most important detail of all. All of this requires the approval of the Chinese government, and it is not at all clear that that approval is actually about to happen. Although the Chinese president did make some positive signals about this last week after his call with President Trump, it is quite clear that China views the TikTok situation in the U.S. as a very valuable point of leverage. So we can come back to that in a moment. But what we do know over the weekend is that President Trump talked about some of the expected investors in this American consortium. This consortium would control the U.S. operations of TikTok, including that all-powerful algorithm, which would apparently be retrained using servers belonging to Oracle. That's the company that is controlled by Larry Ellison, the billionaire tech mogul who is a friend of President Trump's. Notably, Trump said over the weekend in an interview on Fox News that Fox's owners may also be involved in the consortium. This was a new bit of news that Trump seemed to enjoy revealing on Fox's cable network. He said that Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan Murdoch are in talks about having a stake in the venture. Now, I'm told by a person familiar with the matter, this means that Fox Corporation as a company would actually be getting a small stake in TikTok. So if you think about this, Larry Ellison, a friend of the president, the Murdochs, these billionaires who are going to be in this American investor consortium, they are, of course, Trump friendly and Trump adjacent. And that raises new questions about how the algorithm, how the TikTok app could be used to influence a partisan political agenda. If there were lots of concerns 30 years ago about media moguls owning conservative cable channels like Fox News, well, the new era, the new digital age question is about who owns the algorithms. Witness Elon Musk hanging out with Trump last night in Arizona. So this detail about the Murdochs is interesting. We don't know yet if this is actually going to come together or not. And most importantly, we don't know if China is actually going to allow this deal to move forward. The expectation, according to analysts who have spoken to CNN, is that China is using TikTok as a form of leverage to extract concessions from the U.S. that it believes are much more consequential, John.
Rupert Murdoch. Really? That's surprising. For years, Donald Trump and Murdoch appeared to be at odds. Trump even criticized him publicly and blamed him for publishing critical stories. So why now would Murdoch be included in such an influential deal? Could it be about expanding his media empire, or perhaps repairing ties with Trump for strategic reasons? Reports suggest Murdoch recently attended a state dinner with Trump, raising questions about whether their relationship has shifted. Were private conversations held about TikTok, media narratives, or sensitive topics Trump doesn't want amplified? Many creators online have already noticed that certain words or names trigger suppression, forcing them to find workarounds just to share their message. At the same time, Trump's inner circle has consistently worked with powerful business figures like Larry Ellison, Bob Iger, and others who have financial interests tied to Trump's political ambitions. Each of these alliances raises questions about how information platforms are being shaped to serve the interests of billionaires and political leaders alike. The pattern is clear. Trump surrounds himself with allies willing to protect his image in exchange for influence or access. And this connects directly to unresolved issues from past administrations, including decisions made by officials like Alex Acosta, who previously oversaw controversial agreements in high-profile cases. Congressman Jamie Raskin has already highlighted why these details matter and why the public deserves transparency.
The double system of justice that Donald Trump and MAGA are hiding right now began with that case. Remember, the Department of Justice had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go, including charges of rape, statutory rape, human sex trafficking, conspiracy, and on and on. All of that got traded down to basically a count of solicitation in state court. So the federal indictment just went away, and then there was an attempt to even cover up some co-witnesses, and then he got to spend his days frolicking and doing whatever he wanted, including perpetuating the sexual assault of children, and then he would go and spend the night at the jailhouse. That's what U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta provided for back then. We want to know why, and from what I'm hearing just on TV from some of my colleagues, it looked like he had a case of selective amnesia applying to everything that took place back there. So we want all of the documents to be released that the FBI has, that the Department of Justice has, and everything we can get from those cases. But the key thing is this absolute trove, this mountain of evidence within the possession of the FBI and the Department of Justice, which Kash Patel and President Trump were demanding before the election. And they got everybody excited that there was going to actually be a release of the material so we would be able to expose the complete international child sex trafficking ring. Meantime, we have 4 banks which have stated that there were $1.5 billion in suspicious activities related to Epstein and Maxwell's various accounts. Now remember, my Republican colleagues who failed to impeach Joe Biden over allegations they had about Hunter Biden were completely exercised about $20 million in suspicious activity reports relating to the Biden family. 20 million versus 1.5 billion related to the Epstein network. And all of our Republican colleagues, except for Representative Massey from Kentucky, voted against my motion to subpoena the bank CEOs to get all these materials, which they seem to want to do. Jamie Dimon said he was perfectly happy to turn over all those materials. These banks, at least now, are saying they regret any involvement they ever had with Epstein. We've got to get the financial materials so we can follow the money and then determine all the crimes and figure out what's still going on out there right now.
We can see their intentions very clearly. And this isn't about conspiracy theories, it's about transparency and accountability. There have been repeated attempts to deflect from serious questions, and efforts to silence critics are ongoing. That's why it's so important that we continue speaking out and shining a light on these issues. Here on this channel, we're committed to keeping the conversation going every single day. And if you'd like to support that mission, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.